Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. The Esports World Cup qualifier drama has come to a conclusion in many respects last night, with 100 Thieves officially qualifying for the World Cup in Riyadh. They'll be going with NRG after a crazy reverse sweep. Lots of drama as a result of this series, and also the future of competitive VALORANT as well, and what part the EWC and other tournaments may potentially continue to play. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. First of all, at DreamHack Dallas, where I've been this entire weekend covering the Call of Duty stuff, there was also plenty of other esports going on, and there was even some VALORANT. Now, it is just worth thinking about that this weekend here in Dallas, there was Call of Duty, next door there was Brawl Stars, there was chess, there was like the Halo Championship that was happening. There were loads of other things, including notably IEM Dallas, the Counter-Strike tournament, which was absolutely mega in that auditorium. There wasn't really any VALORANT, not like I would expect there to be. Like, Riot Games does run things differently. There was one VALORANT match, and I'll just explain what that was here in a second, because, you know, this is Eggster and the boys at DreamHack Dallas, because they did play a match on the stage. It was actually right down from where the Call of Duty stuff was. You walked out of the Call of Duty venue, you came through to the Brawl Stars thing, you walk slightly further around, you have the Optic booth, the 100 Thieves booth, the Kick booth, the Lamborghini booth, and then just to the right-hand side was the Red Bull Homegrounds stage. And, well, this is what we saw. So, Eggster and the boys, they won the Red Bull Homegrounds NA qualifier. They played a series against Maryville University. And as we see here, Inspire and Baby J, here he is lifting a trophy. It lifted my first VALORANT trophy. Feels good to accomplish so much in a short time with the team. Can't wait to see how far we can go. So there was some VALORANT this weekend here in Dallas. But, you know, again, Riot Games run their ecosystem in a certain way when, you know, things are much more contained within the Riot space. It's pretty rare that you see VALORANT get played, certainly in like a proper tournament setting, in any other setting other than Riot's own thing. And, you know, I understand why they do it. They also run these like mega long tournaments, right? All of Riot's tournaments take like 3 weeks. Whereas in CODs and Counter-Strike and Halo, whatever, like the tournament was 3 days, which you can do, and it's spectacular if you guys haven't been to an event like that. But there was certainly a lot of talk yesterday about the way that, you know, Riot maybe could restructure the esports to some degree. But this was that matchup. I was actually, I didn't get to watch any of it. I went back to the Call of Duty stuff. I was hoping I could see some of the walkouts, but I think things got slightly delayed. But yeah, Envy played Maryville University, and it was Envy that got the win. They 2-0'd them, smoked them off the face of the planet. Kanzera, obviously Inspire, Baby J, I was still calling that until the end of time, to be honest. They dominated the Lotus 13-3, they dominated the Haven 13-3, and yeah, Maryville go down. So these guys win the NA qualifier, the finals. So they've qualified for the main event, Red Bull Homegrounds, which, you know, is going to come up shortly, of course. Like, it's another tournament. They played some matches to get to this point. Maryville took down the Burger Boys, and then Envy smoked them on LAN when it mattered. Now, the other big matchups of yesterday were in the Esports World Cup. They were the final qualifier matches pretty much to determine who's going to go to the EWC and who is not. We know that of the teams around the world, the top 8 teams, based on the 2 teams who won the playoffs and made the grand finals of the playoffs in the various regions, they were there for sure. Outside of that, it was a bit of a gauntlet bracket to get to the point of determining which team was actually going to make it. Now, BBL and KC, they are the 2 teams that did qualify in the end. I mean, Team Liquid will feel very, very like frustrated and disheartened that they looked so good for so long. I mean, if you look at, you know, their recent records, like at the end of the day, they went to the playoffs, they got to the lower bracket final, they beat BBL when it mattered, and Liquid will be at Masters Toronto. So it's not exactly the end of the world. They're going to play Billy Gaming, Liquid, in the first round of the Swiss stage in Masters Toronto, but still, having qualified for that and being the 3rd seed in EMEA to make it, you know, hopes that you could at least got top 4, right, by winning this tournament. But no, BBL took the win against Liquid, and then in another best of 5. So again, maybe there's some questions about Liquid's ability in a long best of 5 matchup. But Karmine Corp, they get the win. And this is honestly, I think, a really cool result for that team, that region. I'm excited for KC as a team that they've managed to do this finally, because when they formed this roster, when Sadak came in, there were high expectations for this organization to finally turn a corner, because we know how shambolic last year was for a large portion of it. But this year, KC, Sadak was, you know, obviously with all the fan base they have, trying to cement something of a legacy. And they've not really been good until right about now, when they took over when it mattered. They lost game 1 13-7 on the split. They bounced back on the Icebox. They won that. They won the Lotus 2. And then the Haven was a 13-9. Ave 26-16 on the Phoenix. Great map from him. And just a great performance over the entire series, really, from Ave especially. And Sugetsu, he was the one talking a lot about it after the fact. So as Sugetsu says, let's go for Twitter. Smart people making us like we are right now. I guess, talking about some of the haters and some of the criticism they've got. Me and the boys going to an international land. Finally, hard work pays off. So they'll be out there in Riyadh. Now, speaking of the World Cup, obviously it's controversial, but Sugetsu talks a little bit about whether Riot should consider the way this is being done more often, right? Because a tournament, like let's say Counter-Strike, for example, people talk about in Valorant and in other games, players getting burned out. It's not really a talk in Call of Duty. But in CS, not every team will play every tournament all the time. And to be honest, I used to follow CS pretty damn closely, but there were so many tournaments that as a fan who's not like really into it, it's difficult to follow. I watch the majors, but apart from that, I'm not super clued up on CS as I used to be. Part of that is because, I think there is some degree of oversaturation. But as a fan, there's always something going on in CS. Like there's always a tournament, there's always something for the teams to prepare for. And there's always something happening. And the thing is that the players, obviously, they prepare, they practice, they grind, like they put in the shift. But I think in Valorant, the big discussion has been, burnout, right? Players playing too much. But actually, the players in CS will probably tell you, and I think the Valorant players would probably agree with this, that they would prefer to actually, instead of just practicing all the time, play more matches. Because actually, I think what burns out some of the players is that they're just practicing all the time with nothing to play. And then they play one match or two matches at a tournament. And then I go, okay, great, we've got to go back to practicing for another month. Like, that's no fun, right? So I think that it's something for Riot to think about, because there was CS this weekend in Dallas, right? There'll be CS next weekend. Some other tournaments happening soon enough anyway. And maybe CS has taken it too far, but in CS, there's a reason why it's super successful, and that open ecosystem has worked for a long time and has become the premier esport, in my opinion. In Valorant, obviously, Riot do it a different way, but Sugetsu's take is, hopefully we take a lesson from EWC and reflect on the value they can bring to teams, organizations, and young players who just made it to Tier 1 but didn't manage to perform well during the regular season. Just imagine how much motivation it would bring to those, to grind and love this game more if they allowed other organizations and tournament operators to host events. An open circuit style. It's probably going to be what we're going to start to see in the Call of Duty side again. It's obviously what we've had in Counter-Strike for a long time. In Valorant, I don't know if Riot are ever going to quite do that, but the Esports World Cup has proven that it's possible to make it work, where you've got other tournaments happening during the regular season, which are, helpful for players and for teams, and just give more opportunities to teams and players to prove. Because, we've seen lots of notable players in Valorant over the last few years retiring maybe earlier than they should have done. I think there's an argument to say that might not have happened had there been more tournaments, and teams that just, happened to fall short in one tournament, but actually were very good, they can maybe make a run for the next tournament, which is coming up in a few weekends' time. Something to think about. But in America, 100T got the win. They took down MRBR. They reverse swept them. Of course, MRBR will be there in Toronto, so they'd have loved to, of course, also be there in Riyadh. But no, 100T get the win. Honestly, a mega reverse sweep. Aspas tries his best, as always, on the Jet. But when it mattered, Asuna turned up this series. Obviously, we saw Asuna have a difficult series the other day. And again, questions on his efficacy and ability to really get over the line. But when it mattered here, they go down 13-4 even on the splits. But after that, they started to bounce back. 13-3 on the Haven. Asuna goes 18-6 on the Neon. 13-10 on the Ascent. And then the deciding map of the series, the Pearl. 100T won it 13-9. Grueling series. 5-mapper. This is Boostio and the boys having got the victory in the ends. I don't know if they're going to allow Boostio to play with his shirt off at the World Cup in Riyadh. I would say the answer to that is rather doubtful, to say the very least. But 100T got the win. I thought they could well do this. MRBR were, probably going to be the slight favourites there just because of what they've done recently. But honestly, it's great for North America to have, a couple of other teams in the mix, right? NRG looking back, 100T getting out there to Riyadh as well. They're going to be, Sentinels. There's going to be G2 in business as well. And it's quite an interesting quartet of teams, given the strength historically of Loud and even MRBR in recent times. The idea that the 4 teams going to Riyadh from the Americas are G2, Sen, 100T and NRG, all North American teams. Not a massive surprise, but still notable nonetheless. So Ryu says, going on a business trip, they officially qualify for the World Cup out there in Riyadh. As Asuna says, so happy with our resilience and the amount of stress that left my body is unreal because, you know, there's a lot of pressure on this for 100T. There was a lot of pressure on this tournament because having failed to qualify for Masters Toronto, I think with 100T, the leash, as it were, like the amount of, you know, let's say freedom they still have to not perform, very, very limited. And I think this actually was a massively important series for a number of players. I think obviously Asuna's been under some pressure from the fan base anyway in recent times. But they get the win. They qualify for Riyadh. That's only one part of it. Out there in Riyadh, of course, there will be 16 teams. The Pacific qualifier has also now concluded. We saw PaperX play DRX again. This time was in the grand finals, and PaperX took the victory 3-1. At the end of the day, both of these teams qualified. Didn't really matter. DRX took down Global Esports. PaperX took down Team Secret. So, yeah, both of those teams will qualify for the World Cup. Or, yeah, for the Esports World Cup. And not, I was going to say the World Championship, you know what I'm saying. These are the 16 teams that are going to be there. So, Sen, G2, Gli Gaming, Bilibili, Fnatic, Heretics, Gen.G, RRQ. The top 8 teams from the relative playoffs. Then NRG, 100T, Edward, Titan Esports Club, BBL, KC, PaperX, DRX. Those are your 16 teams out there to Riyadh in, when is it coming up? Yeah, the middle of July, pretty much, when this tournament will conclude. $1.25 million on the line for that one. Just quickly, because Boostio did do a tweet, he did call it a Masters, and I know there was some debate on whether it was really a Masters or not, but yes, intrigued your perspective as ever in the comments below. Couple of scrimbucks. T1, we're playing with Carpe, down 12-10 to Wolves, pretty interesting. There were some other notable results as well here over the last couple of days, such as this one, Lev were down 9-12 to somebody or another. But very much intrigued to your thoughts as always on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.